I'm Jade, and today I'm answering your questions related to OCD. If you have a question you want me to answer in my next Q&A video, please comment below and I'll make sure that I get to it. I've got 4 questions today that I'm going to cover, and they're a real nice mix. I think that you're going to really enjoy them today. The first one is from Aaron, and he says, what type of things do you still work on to remain emotionally healthy? Even though recovered, it sounds like you don't just coast along. Aaron wrote this on a video where I was talking about like how to get recovered and useful life structure advice. And so like the things to do, like healthy habits to have on OCD recovery, and how to not become compulsive with those. So today, just to update you on where I'm at, I consider myself mostly recovered. I've had a stressful 18 months, actually stressful 2 years with having another child, and sleep was an issue. And I probably let some habits slip in that were not that great for my overall well-being. For example, exercise reduced, time for myself reduced. There have been times where I probably have just been in the house way too much with my kids doing jobs and not prioritizing nature and getting out there. And now when those type of things accumulate, you start to see that you're creating the conditions for OCD to start digging its heels in again. But it never gets to a point where it takes me back to a place of suffering. I'm always at peace with whatever it wants to throw at me. And so I'm not saying that I go back to my suffering. I'm just saying that when I don't remain a healthy life structure, then it can start to creep in a little bit. And I can see that it would latch if I didn't change a few things. That said, I don't obsessively make sure that I'm doing things to overcome that. I may be end up doing another 3 weeks in that unhealthy life pattern. It doesn't bother me that I don't overthink it too much. But let me just break down a few things that I recommend to stay emotionally healthy once recovered, so that you're in a good place to upkeep that. Because something that I found quite upsetting, actually, when there were subtle shifts throughout recovery. So it took about 18 months to get to a place where I was like, the world is bright. I feel like I've just taken off glasses that are blurry, and someone's put glasses in mud and I've just wiped them, and then I've actually taken them off completely. Life just felt amazing. It felt like when I was a kid again, like a young kid. And it was like the suffering's not here anymore, and everything's wonderful. And then when real life kicks in, and that slips away maybe from time to time, because you have slipped into unhealthy patterns of behavior, watching too much TV and not doing things that are good for you in a natural sense. Anyone's mental health takes a small dip if you just for 6 months are not prioritizing things that are good for you. I remember being but I'm recovered, so why am I feeling myself go into these mental health dips, is what I would call them, because they weren't OCD suffering, and it was just a mental health dip, feeling a little bit on edge in the background. And so I remember that being a process that was and I spoke to the guys at OCD Recovery, and they were like, well, yeah, recovery is a state to be maintained. You don't just go, oh, I've not got OCD anymore. It's my brain is capable of OCD suffering, I just don't suffer from it, and that's going to take a certain amount of maintenance. So I recommend, first of all, not in any way becoming obsessive with emotional well-being, because that's going to really not be healthy for you. But what I do for emotional well-being is I make sure I'm connected with my passions. It just gives me a grander sense of life, that there's more to life than this low level belief system of oh, if I'm this, I'm good, I'm bad. I like to learn about philosophies and life concepts. So I watch motivational, I try to, when I have time, I try to watch motivational YouTube videos that inspire me, that motivate me to move forward. People who are going through intense suffering and difficult life situations, I love to watch things like that, because it just makes me so motivated and excited about life. Having a life mission, which is in my business, it's related to my business and helping the people I help, that keeps me emotionally well. Outdoor time with my children, and connecting with nature, and just getting out there, and being with friends, socializing, not watching too much TV. I mean, I don't get much time to watch TV anyway, but I think a big one is really connecting with the purpose in life, and self self-learning. It's like, that's what keeps me emotionally healthy. As soon as I go into irrational thinking patterns, like, oh, life is so hard, my kids never let me sleep, and they don't ever let me have time for myself. Like, for example, doing this video is the first, like, I did a video before this, it's the first like 1 hour I've had to myself for 5-6 days. And before that, it was like to go and shop on my own for an hour. This is not a pity party, because like, whatever, it's just life, I've got kids. But it's very easy to end up in a thing of like, oh, they wake me up at 6 and they're jumping on my head, and then I can't do anything. I can't even make toast and sit down because they want something. And then I watch something on YouTube that's someone who's like in a war zone or lost all their family, and I'm like, oh, how privileged and lucky, how wonderful that I get to sit down while I eat my toast and my kids are just nagging at me, but like, we're in a warm house and we have a car outside and we can go places and we've got family around, and like that immediate gratitude. So I would urge anyone who's better to make constant gratitude training, I suppose, is gratitude, affirmation and training to be the healthiest emotional habit. And also having something that you love and going all in on that. Like, if you love exercise, if you want to write a book, write it. If you want to paint, all these things. So that's it. That was a long answer, Aaron, but I hope it's helpful. Marie says, is there a correlation between OCD and autism? Could you be misdiagnosed autistic, but in reality have severe OCD, which makes you appear autistic? So first off, I will not be able to answer your question. I'm not a doctor. I'm a person who's suffered severe OCD and gotten better. And so all I can share is like, here's what I did, and hope that that's helpful for you and point you to resources. There are two things I would say, however. The first one is, you want to be careful with OCD that, like, sometimes, like, often I've thought, oh my gosh, do I have ADHD? Do I have this? Am I that? It's like, we've got two things. You'll need to talk to a doctor and the medical system about diagnosis and autism, because obviously this channel has nothing to do with autism, so I would never be able to comment on that. You'd need to see specialists to talk about that. And unfortunately, I know it's hard. I know that the system don't always understand these things as well as we would want. And I know that it's really common for OCD symptoms to be misunderstood. And I'm guessing from what you've said that it's the same with autism. What I would say here for you, Marie, is that self-education is going to be your biggest ally. For example, I would go and see therapists, having learned a lot about OCD and how it operates. And then when they would say things to me, I'd be like, that doesn't sound right. Proving to myself that I'm a good person to overcome harm OCD is definitely not a good idea. Can you tell me more about why you're suggesting that? And so it's not about compulsively reading about these things, but really understanding how autism and OCD show up in people, not so that you're trying to figure out what you are, just learning about them and then seeing specialists and making sure, right, I'm comfortable that this person definitely knows this stuff about this, definitely understands and can guide and lead me. If you're seeing someone who's a real specialist in autism, perhaps you could bring some sheets relating to OCD and the symptoms you've been facing to say, could you have a look at this? So again, I'm not going to go into whether or not you've been you could be misdiagnosed or not. I'd also say keep an eye on whether or not OCD is like sending you down a path of, have I got autism? Or even if you have autism, like, oh, I don't want it to be autism, so maybe it's severe OCD. So yeah, speak to professionals in relation to diagnosis. I think that it's important to do that. Matt had been talking to me about the difficulties he's having with our OCD and the fact that he keeps wanting to break up with his girlfriend and like freaking out over it all the time. And so he responded to my comment, which was my comment saying, you're going to need to make peace with the idea that even if you don't love your girlfriend and even if she's not the right person for you, you can live that way. That's not a scary situation in reality. You're really scared of it. And so that's why it's latching. So if you work towards not being scared of it anymore and seeing that a lot of people are with people they're not in love with and are with the wrong people, and they don't obsess over it every other day, maybe every 6 months they reevaluate the relationship. And then if it's not getting better, they're like, oh, I don't know if this is right. And I don't want to break up, but like, it doesn't feel like it's right. But then they just give it another year and don't really think about it. It's why you see people stay together who probably shouldn't be together, but they just stay together for their whole life because they've never really got around to bothering dealing with it. So you're kind of the opposite. Your brain is so obsessed with it that you're thinking about it so much that in each moment it feels like, should I leave? No, I shouldn't. Or we've made up, I want to stay now. Oh no, I can't stand that, I need to leave her. And so it's this idea of, I can live with someone that I am not supposed to be with. So your response to me, Matt, was, I struggle to get my head around making peace with a situation when it's just so easy to just pull the plug on the relationship. Of course you do. Of course you struggle to make peace with the situation. That's why your OCD is latching there. The same way it's like if someone's scared of getting cancer and someone said, look, even if in reality you've got cancer, which is something you can't control, people do get that. This is just fact. Even if you do get it, you can survive and you can take meaning from the suffering and the process of suffering as a result of that. The reason it's stuck for you is this. So Matt, like me sharing 10-minute answer to your question and then you responding, I struggle to see how I can make peace with that. Of course you will. You will probably still struggle to make peace with it after 6 months of working on unconditional self and life acceptance. Maybe after 8 months, and don't take these time frames literally, it's just what I did. Maybe after 8 months you'll go, I'm starting to see how that could be the case, but I don't believe it yet. And then maybe after 15 months, it's just like, I'm completely at peace with this, and the love's coming back, or the love's not coming back, whatever. And so you're at a place now where that's the thing to work on. Once you're more comfortable with the idea of your girlfriend is not the right person for you, or you'll live this whole time, you'll live your whole life with her, constantly worrying if she's the one, if she's the right person. And so the other thing I wanted to say to you, Matt, about your language of when it's so easy to just pull the plug, that's how everything works. But it'd be so easy to just grab something and harm someone. It'd be so easy to just jump off this cliff. You could just do it. What if you could just do it? That's like that impulsive, what if I just do it? What if I just do it? It'd be so easy. Well, yeah, it would be easy to just say, I'm breaking up with you. That would be so easy. But then you'd probably only say, actually, I was wrong, I changed my mind. So I think for you, Matt, as well, uncertainty is going to be a big one as well, because again, you'll never know. And so uncertainty is a lot of the advice in mainstream OCD recovery type advice. It's like, you will never know. Say now you break up with your girlfriend tomorrow, and then 4 years later she's married and she's got kids, and you go, I can't believe I threw away the love of my life. It's like with romantic movies. The story's either there's a person that you want that you can't have, and it's devastating, and they're, you do anything to be with them and you're devastated you're not with them, or it's that they are with someone they just don't want to be with, and then they leave them, and then the end of the story is we should have always been together. And so, wow, we reconnected, we got back together. It's like, there's just no, your brain wants this perfect situation of perfect fairy tale ending of like, I'm with the right person, we're so happy, but like, you can't ever have that. You don't know which way the story's going to go. And so it's about accepting that life, this is the biggest one for our OCD, life is way more than your relationship. You're zoomed in on your relationship so closely, and I know because I've suffered really badly with our OCD. It's so zoomed in on imperfections and why it's not right and why it's not good. It's like, my relationship, I would say, is 15% of my life now. There's so much more to my life than my relationship. Before, it was about 80% of my life. Now it's about 15%. And so if that element of my life is not going so great, then I'm cool with that. Whereas before, if that element was not going so great, I'd be terrified and devastated by it. So that, I hope that helps, Matt. Claire, the last question. Claire has been dealing with sensory motor OCD. And what she said is that, because it's quite a long comment, I'm just going to break it down. What's been happening for Claire, I think, is that you have been overcoming sensory motor each time it comes up. So one will latch, and then you're managing to overcome it, and it goes, and then another one comes in. But what's happening is you then falling down dreadfully in between, like waiting for the next one to happen, and what's it going to be, and how am I going to cope? I'm never going to cope, because obviously when it first hits you and you're in that cycle of terror, it's so scary. And so what I think is going on, Claire, I think that you're suffering with fear of fear, which is really common in OCD. And actually, it's one thing, even though I consider myself recovered from OCD, is one thing that can still catch me because of the residual memory of how difficult it was to live with severe OCD and how that latching feeling attaches. I sometimes still find myself scared of, what if that thing happens? Because this was what I hated most about OCD. I didn't actually mind the like low level, always there thing that was so exhausting. What I hated was you're doing great and then bang, like you just, like your heart's racing. You like, I can't even explain it, but everyone knows this feeling. All it feels like the blood is drained from your body. You feel trapped in the room you're in. Anyone talking to you is like, don't talk to me, don't talk to me. I need to be outside in the air. That's what I would do. I would just walk into the front. I would just walk outside to be in air. I'd feel trapped wherever I was. Any food in front of me, I'd be like, I can't, like, I'm going to be sick. I can't. And just everything felt weird. Everything felt weird. Just that feeling. We're scared of that. We're scared of that more than we are the actual thing that is fueling the fear. So, for example, sensory motor, let's say you're worried about thinking about your blinking too much. And then, now I'm counting how many times I'm blinking. That's interesting. And then it hits you like a ton of bricks, but you're not actually that scared of blinking after a minute. And it goes. It's not blinking you're scared of, it's the fear of being worried about your blinking. Like, what's it going to attach to next? I remember I didn't like hearing about people's themes because I would think, what if mine attaches there? And so I think for fear of fear, like what's worked for me is definitely making peace with living in the suffering state for a large portion of your life. And so I am at peace with that. I've lived through that again. I could still have patches of time where life was good and I was enjoying things. And then, yeah, maybe 8 hours out of the day, every day, I'm going to be really suffering with OCD. It's a moving towards that as like I don't want it, but I could do it. There are people who live with life altering conditions who manage to get through and do amazing things anyway. Like, isn't there a person who wrote a full book with their feet or something? I can't remember that, but maybe look on YouTube for something like that. Like, you just think the things that you can do despite anything. And actually, like, suffering with OCD and then being able to go on and talk to you guys about it is one of the benefits I think of having OCD. It's given me like something to give back now. And I always would reflect on, like, I often think like I should be giving back, I should be giving back, I should be going to old people's homes with my kids, and I should be, doing things for the homeless, I should be doing this. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute, you've been through this extreme thing, OCD. Surely, like, that's your giving back. Like, give back to people who have OCD right now. That's the most value you can give to people. So that's why I try and do these videos when I can, as often as I can. And so it's really about that. So I hope that they were useful. Thanks, Marie, Aaron, Matt, Claire, for your questions. If you have a question for me, please comment below. If you like this video, please like it and share it with anyone who is suffering that you know, or like in any groups that you talk to people, like forums, for example. It can be really pretty bad for just constantly ruminating together. So like sharing these type of videos in places like that to be like, hey, like, check this out. Maybe we shouldn't be constantly reassuring each other. So give me your questions. I will answer them in my next Q&A, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.